Today, as I explained last week, is the most popular presentation that I do on college campuses. It's the most sought after. It's the one that professors ask me about and ask me to deliver. It's the one that I do at job fairs and everywhere else. And so y'all are getting the most updated version of that. And it is how to get a job in media. So that's what we're going to cover today. So first of all, in order to successfully land a job in media, you're going to have to get a plan and a process. You're going to have to establish that, remain organized, and you're going to need to work that system. It takes discipline. I mentioned in previous meetings that my suggestion is that you apply for at least 100 positions. If you're graduating this May, you need to apply for at least 100 positions before the end of March in order to secure multiple offers from which you can choose, so that you'll be sitting on several job offers before you graduate, can accept one of those, and know what your summer is going to entail in terms of transitioning seamlessly into the industry. So in order to do that, and in order to manage that number of applications, you're going to need to be very organized, and you're going to need to be methodical about your search. So the plan that I recommend is get organized, search for positions, research those positions, locations, companies, managers, newsrooms, evaluate and decide in your own mind if you believe you're a good match for those positions, managers, newsrooms, companies, then apply. And then begin your follow-up process, emails, calls, and then rinse and repeat as you continue to follow up. So it's organize, search, research, evaluate, apply, and then follow up. How do you get organized? The first thing you need to do is fix your resume. The very first thing you need to do is fix your resume. I guarantee you not one of you has the resume right now that will maximize your application to positions in media. You need to standardize all of that proofed data across your resume and all platforms. What do I mean by that? Your resume needs to include the following things. It needs 4 sections. It should be only 1 page long. The 4 sections are the contact info, your experience, the school info, and other. The other section is your choice. These sections are listed in the order I suggest that you place them on the single page of your resume. The top of your resume should feature your name, your phone number, preferably your mobile phone number on which you can be reached for scheduled or impromptu interviews, no matter where you are. You don't want to miss an opportunity to connect with a hiring manager. And so if you're away from the normal place you might do it, you want to have your mobile phone on you. I expect most of you will keep that on you most 24/7. So you want to use that phone, your primary phone number. You need to also offer an email address. That's likely going to be a primary mode of communication between you and all hiring managers, is your email address. Per my previous suggestions to you, that email address, I would not recommend using your school email address for this application process. I would recommend you use your branded Gmail address so that when hiring managers see it pop up in their inbox, they can easily match the name, Carly Lloyd at gmail.com or Lonza Stitz at gmail.com, to the reference application and the resume that they might have in front of them. So it's all tied together. So use a specific email address to handle your job application process, and I recommend it being the branded one that you own your name on, because that's easy to remember and easy for someone to keep track of, a hiring manager to keep track of if they're looking at hundreds of applicants. The fourth thing in the top section of your resume should be a dynamic link to a YouTube URL, which is your primary resume reel. Some of you might have read the article I wrote on LinkedIn, which talks about this issue. Last year, I had, almost 100 people apply for an on-camera position, and only 2 people included a dynamic link to their resume reel on their resume. Huge mistake. Not all hiring managers will take your name and go to YouTube and plug it into YouTube and then troll through all the people on YouTube with a similar name to find your resume reel. You've got to get your work, samples of your work in front of a hiring manager in every instance. So that means putting a dynamic link to your resume reel in the top section of your resume. The fifth element, which I don't list here, which you're welcome to include in the contact info, is your street address or your location. And that simply serves maybe in, if you get to the second round, a news director is going to want to know, like, where are you physically located right now? Because they may be considering bringing you in from that location for an in-person interview. And so you want to make sure that as you get down the line, if you're welcome to include it as a fifth element in the top spot, but just make sure that they understand where you are, so that if they start talking about making flight arrangements to bring you in for an interview, then they know where you are and they know how to get that ball rolling. But the top section, remember, name, phone number, email address, which you check daily, preferably a dedicated branded one that is your name, and then a dynamic link to your resume reel, your primary resume reel on YouTube. The second section of your resume should be a list of your experience. Typically, young people coming out of school, the next thing they will put after their contact information is the name of their school, their major, their GPA, and their graduation date. You still need that, but you don't want to emphasize the fact that you're a student. Psychologically, you want to put yourself in front of this hiring manager as a professional. So the next section should be formatted more like a resume for someone who's already out in the working world. So whatever experience you have, internships, school newspaper, school website, school television station, part-time job at a radio station in the town that you work in, freelancing, whatever you have, a blog you might have that you do regular work on, anything that shows that you're a content creator, put that on there and format it like a standard professional business resume. So you should have 2 or 3 things at least in there that you've done. Could be freelance, could be your school newspaper or TV station, and put the experience in there. You want to highlight, here's what I know how to do. So contact info, experience second. The third thing you put is your school information. So I'm at, Johnson & Wales University. I majored in this. I graduate on this date. And if you want to put in there any kind of, summa cum laude, honors mentions or your GPA, that's fine. If you have a really solid academic career, then go ahead. Please emphasize the achievements you've made there. So the third section is your school information, and a part of what you're putting into that school information when you enter your graduation date is you're letting that hiring manager know, after this date is when I'm available. Now, I did hire somebody from Syracuse University back in the fall, and since they were working remotely for their final classes, they actually joined me here as a full-time employee before they graduated. They came here, they began work, they finished up their schoolwork, and they graduated virtually. They'll be returning to campus in May, as Syracuse will be holding in-person ceremonies to honor the December 2020 grads along with the May 2021 grads. But usually when you put a graduation date in that school section, it means I need to be at school and I will be involved in academic activity to finish my degree, and I will not be available to start working for you until this date. So it just lets the hiring manager know, okay, this is the kind of timetable we're working on. So 4 sections of your 1-page resume: contact info is detailed, professional or skill experience, your school info, which includes graduation date, any kind of honors you have, and then 4th is other. Honestly, it's whatever you think should go in there. If you were a scholarship athlete, then you might want to feature that in there. If you have won several student journalism awards of school, regional or national recognition, you may want to feature that. I include on my resume to date, years and years later, I include Eagle Scout on my resume. And that's something I did when I was a kid, but it's unique and it's hard to get that achievement. And I have had managers call me and tell me, and when they interviewed me, part of the reason I'm interviewing you is because you're an Eagle Scout, and I was an Eagle Scout, or my son was an Eagle Scout, and I know how hard it is to get that. And so that shows me that you have discipline and stick-to-itiveness to get after that. So that's just one little kind of nugget I just throw in there at the end, along with some of the other awards, professional awards that I have. So that fourth section is really just for you to kind of show me something unique about yourself, or make sure you have a space to include something that's extra or interesting about you that you believe you can add to the conversation, or it shows work ethic, discipline, or anything else there that you think you might want to include. Remember, your resume needs to be perfect. You know, we're in a business of accuracy. We're in the business of getting it right. And if you don't have your resume perfect, that shows you don't pay attention to details, and the stakes are high. I mean, I know there are a lot of hiring managers that will disqualify candidates for spelling errors on their resume. It's serious, and it's not hard to do. Just run it through spell check, guys. You got to get it perfect. So once you get your resume proofed and perfect, make sure you use that proofed information from your resume to reformat your LinkedIn profile to match your resume. So it is a perfect match. It looks similar. All the dates are correct. They match up. The descriptions of the positions and experiences and capabilities are the same. And then do the same thing across all job sites, the professional job sites, Indeed, Monster, and all the corporate job sites, which you'll put a profile on. We'll get to that in a second. So that's how you reformat your resume, and I recommend you do that as soon as possible. So you have that. That's a backbone of what you'll be using for info to set up your profiles and begin your application process across all platforms. To this point, does anybody have any questions about how to format your resume, the information that's in it, how to go about standardizing that and making it as strong as it can be for the application process? Okay. So you have your perfected resume. You then use that information in the perfected resume to go to all the job sites and all the career sites and set up your profiles. This is before you apply for positions. You want to go ahead and set up your profiles. This is an awesome thing, and it's a wonderful thing. Once you set up your profile on those professional job sites and the corporate career sites, then it's super easy to apply for a lot of jobs and manage your application process. And again, you want to make sure that the information on the job sites perfectly matches your resume. So if a hiring manager gets a notification from their corporate application system and it pings in to their system and they're checking all the applicants, and then they notice your resume and your resume doesn't match your corporate application, that's going to create, questions in their minds. Take the time to set up your profile correctly. Many of those sites also require you to attach a resume, so you don't want to have the boxes that you fill out not match your resume. The other cool thing is if you have your LinkedIn profile perfectly matching your resume, many corporate sites and job sites will allow you to just set up your profile by loading your LinkedIn profile into the site, so you don't have to retype all that. So that's why you start with your resume, then you set up LinkedIn, and then you use the LinkedIn profile to just set up the profile on all the sites. I'm going to show you the Nexstar career site to give you an idea of what it looks like. So this is the Nexstar career site, and it would be comparable to the other career sites that many media companies have. It gives you the opportunity to learn about the company, all the TV stations. So for instance, here are all the TV stations Nexstar owns across the country. Here's my station right here in Columbus. Here's New York City. Here's LA. Chicago. So, and many, many in between. So you can use the information on corporate sites like this to say, okay, well, Where am I located? Well, I currently am residing in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am from Greenville, North Carolina. And so I might want to concentrate my effort, because I'd like to be in the southeastern United States. So maybe I want to concentrate my effort of application around this area here. And you can see where those locations are. And then by remembering these call letters, when you go later and find jobs, find your career, Nexstar career, you'll be presented with this. And this is all the jobs that are currently listed right now in Nexstar. So let's just search MMJ. So right now, on March the 9th, 2021, there are 57 MMJ positions posted in our company. See how easy that was? Once your profile is set up in this system, all you would need to do would be to click on one of those listings and click the blue apply button, because your profile is already set up. So you see how easy it would be to apply for 100 jobs once you have your profile set up on all these corporate sites. It's simply click, look at the position, evaluate it, and if you like it, boom, click apply, and you're in the running. Producer. 287 producer positions available. Reporter. 192 reporter positions available. Oop, misspelled anchor, sorry guys. Anchor positions, 125 anchor positions available. Digital, 341 digital positions. So you see, there's a lot of jobs out there, guys. I mean, you could easily apply for 100 jobs just in Nexstar alone. I wouldn't recommend limiting your search to just one company, although this is a really good company, and I definitely recommend you apply to Nexstar. But if you do each thing that I've asked you to consider doing in this setup process for your job search, then you're going to be sitting pretty in terms of applying. So you've got your resume proofed and perfected. You've standardized your LinkedIn profile. You set up your profile on all the job sites and all the corporate sites. And you need to be ready to be organized to manage the application process. My recommendation is that you go analog. Don't track your applications. I don't recommend you track your applications electronically. I actually recommend you track your applications in a binder with paper, 1 page of paper for each job for which you apply. You can have that binder in your backpack, and you can easily talk on the phone with someone and do an interview and have your binder out with a pen and take notes about that conversation as you're having an interview or having a conversation about a job. So that is my recommendation, that you go analog to manage your process. If you have a job listed on 1 page and you evaluate it, and maybe you have an interview and you decide, well, they're not going to fill that job right now, or that job won't be filled for 2 months, or that job's not a good match for me, you can just simply snap the binder open and move that page of paper more toward the back of the binder for later follow-up. You don't lose that information. It's organized, you know where it is. Each page of that on there that you have your job details, you need to list the position, you need to list the city that it's in, the call letters of the station to which you applied, who owns that station, the hiring manager's contact information. So make that sort of a header on the page. Here's the job I applied for, digital MMJ, Augusta, Georgia, WJBF, owned by Nexstar, hiring manager Scott Elledge. And here's all his contact information. And then underneath that, for the rest of the front and back of that piece of paper, each time you do something in relation to that position, just put a date and a time and what you did. So, Tuesday, the 9th of March, 2021 at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, spoke to news director Scott Elledge. Scott told me the position would be frozen for 30 days until he gets past coverage of the Masters tournament in Augusta. Then he would begin interviews. Need to call him back on April 15th, right? So then just put a reminder in your calendar to call Scott back on the 15th. Does this make sense the way I'm organizing this for you guys? Just show me a thumbs up if this makes sense to you guys. Okay, and again, if there's any point where you don't understand something, please unmute and stop me and ask me the question, because there's a ton of detail in this presentation. And so I don't want y'all to I want y'all to walk away with actionable items. So you're getting organized now. So what is your next step? Your next step is to search, research, and evaluate. Okay. So what does that mean? You've perfected your resume, your LinkedIn profile. You've set up your profile on all these sites. You have not actually yet applied. Instead, what you're going to do is what I just recommended. You're going to search for the kinds of positions in which you may have interest. You're going to read about them. You're going to see how they're described. You're going to see where they are. You're going to see which companies are posting those. You're going to see the number of jobs available in certain categories. So if you really have your heart set on doing digital reporting off camera in politics, then you're going to be able to do all those searches on all the job sites, and you're going to be able to collect a rough understanding of how many jobs like that are available. And then that will enable you to calibrate what you're going to do in terms of the total number of jobs you apply for. Because if you want an off-camera digital reporting job that concentrates on politics, and there are about 80 jobs available like that, you're not going to have to then probably apply for a lot of other jobs. You can focus your search right in the sweet spot of your core interest and skill set. If, however, you see only 3 jobs that are in that sweet spot, then you need to expand your search a little bit more and think, what are some of the other areas of interest that I might be interested in, or other parts of the country I might be willing to move to. So you research those jobs, you research the stations, and you research the ownership, right? One thing I recommend you do in this phase and in the application and follow-up phase is call the stations or call the companies. See if you can get someone on the phone who is not the hiring manager to give you the real deal about what it's like to work at that company or location. Lots of job sites have ratings, of companies, where employees and former employees will evaluate like what it's like to work there. Some of that stuff is accurate. Some of that stuff is people with bad blood just throwing, BS after they exit. But my recommendation is try to get somebody on the phone who is currently working at the television station or the location to which you're applying, and just say, hey, look, I'm a student. I'm thinking about applying to your TV station and your company. What's your station like? What's the town like? What's your boss like? Do you like working there? Is it fun? How long have you been there? So who might you be able to get? I'd call in after 7 o'clock at local time, or after 8 o'clock local time, when the anchors are in there, the night side producers there, probably the night side digital producers there, some production people are in there, but it's not as hectic and crowded. Don't call into the newsroom at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No one's going to take your call. They're busy trying to get the 5 o'clock news on the air, right? So time your call in a way where you're calling people. Also, if you're calling at nights and you're calling on the weekends, chances are then you're going to be able to get somebody who's they're not the main anchor. They're a little bit farther down the totem pole. So they're a little bit closer to where you are in life and can relate in a fresh and more timely manner to what you're going through, because maybe they went through it just a year or two ago. Does that make sense? So get some inside information if you can about what the station's like, what the company's like, what the boss is like, what's been their experience working there. So once you've gathered this information about the companies that are out there, and why is company important? Let me make a statement there. Company is important because you want to make sure that you're applying to a company which will be able to hire you and which won't go belly up and bankrupt a month from now. If I'm applying right now to all these different media companies, I'm probably not going to spend as much time applying to opportunities in the Sinclair company, because Sinclair Media Company just laid off 500 people last week. So there's probably not a lot of open jobs right now. They're not looking to hire people. They're cutting people loose right now. So if they're having financial issues to the point where they're having to lay people off, you can bet that probably some of those locations and Sinclair stations have been told, if you have open positions right now, freeze them and don't fill them. We got to save money. So there may still be some Sinclair stations filling positions. Go after it and try. And again, I don't know because I have no inside knowledge of Sinclair, but it would just stand to reason if they're laying people off, they're probably trying to save money in other areas, and that might include freezing positions and not filling them in as timely a manner. So having knowledge like that about the company, the stability of the company, its status in terms of current hiring is valuable so that you don't waste your time. Once you have all that information, evaluate the information. Think about what kinds of companies, which particular companies am I attracted to? Did I find commonality in a certain region? Like, I didn't know a lot about the Appalachian Mountains around Tennessee and northern Georgia and North Carolina, and seems to be like that's a cool area. And I talked to 3 different people in 3 different newsrooms, and sounds like it'd be fun to live there. That may be an area of the country I might want to concentrate on, or I might like this particular company, or I found 2 stations which just everybody I talked to said they love it, it's fantastic, and it's great for young people at her first break into the business. So that research will be valuable for you. And then also evaluate yourself. And I mentioned this previously, but you need to consider this. If you are a person that was raised in South Florida and you currently live and go to school in Georgia, and you have 2 days out of the year where the temperature is less than 20 degrees and 2 days of 20-degree weather with a tiny flurry of snow is not something that you want to put up with only 2 days, then it's probably not advisable for you to take a job at a television station in Montana or Idaho or northern Minnesota, where half your year there's snow on the ground. If you're just not a cold weather person, think about, if someone at that TV station in Montana offered me a job, would I actually accept the job? If you're willing to put up with cold weather and snow and see, well, maybe I can have some fun in winter weather and winter sports, and you want to have an adventure, then okay, then keep that on your list. But don't waste your time. Don't waste a hiring manager's time by applying for jobs that you really know in your heart you're not going to take that job if someone offers it to you. So focus your search in a way to really be honest with yourself about where you want to be, what you want to be doing, what you're capable of, and what you're willing to do in terms of being away from friends, family, familiar things, and or embracing new opportunities and adventure in a different part of the country that you've never been, never lived in, and want to try out while you don't have a family and a mortgage and a bunch of other things that might tie you down. So really be honest with yourself. So you're doing your searches, you're learning, you're researching, and you're evaluating those opportunities, companies, regions, locations, and you're evaluating yourself. Once you do that, you apply. Again, my recommendation is if you're graduating in May of 2021, before the end of March of 2021, you should have applied to at least 100 jobs. I've been posting a couple of positions between the first of the year and now, and I just posted a digital MMJ position on Monday. And let me tell you, I've been getting regular applications for all of the other applications, but the position I posted on Monday has had probably 4 times the number of applicants that any position I've posted earlier this year. One of the reasons is a lot of people just like you who are graduating in May are getting around to getting serious about applying. So the floodgates have been opened. You don't want to miss that wave. You've got to get in the game and start applying this month So you will have an offer in your hand before you graduate in May. All right. So per previous recommendation, you've already set up your profiles, search the job sites, the major job sites, search the corporate career sites, and then apply for those positions, right? When you apply for a position, you do want to, if you can, enter a custom note each time you apply. And all that really does is maybe in 2 or 3 sentences, it just encapsulates the stuff that you've learned during your research. It's, hey, really like the work you guys are doing in covering military affairs. I'm a military brat and moved to 17 different locations all over the world with my mom, who was in the Air Force. And so I know a lot about the military, and I could be a great asset to your team in covering military affairs because I know a lot about it, right? So, there you are, your 3 sentences about, what you know about the station, what you know about the opportunity. And I mentioned one skill that I have that matches the position, right? So in your note, 3 sentences, just reference the particular station and call letters. Don't send a note to a hiring manager that says, "Dear hiring manager." Personalize your application so that they show you've done 10 seconds of research where you have the call letters, the city, and the hiring manager's name spelled correctly, and their title is correct. Don't be impersonal. It takes a little bit of time, but it only takes probably 30 seconds to customize. You have a generic form that you use of 2 or 3 sentences, just customize that for each application, okay? Try to stand out because everybody else, is doing it generically. So you go through there and you just literally you've got your little, on a word pad, you've got your little generic note, you customize it, you hit apply, enter, submit, apply, enter your little customization, attach your resume, submit. You just go through that, boom, 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 all the way down the line. The parameters that I've outlined for you in previous meetings would include the encouragement to you to do not say no to yourself. You will come across job listings which say they're entry-level jobs in 100+ markets, and they say 2 years of experience required. That's ridiculous. Ignore those caveats. If you're applying for a job in market 140, there is no, I can think of rare instances where any news director in market size 140 is going to get any applicant that they're going to be able to land successfully that already has 2 years of experience for any entry-level job. So either they're deluding themselves when they post that job description, they never even looked at the job description. Somebody in HR wrote that 5 years ago, and they're just using the same generic job posting over and over again. They don't proof it. So any kind of entry-level job, especially in a higher market size number, 90 or plus, 80 or plus, and they're telling you need multiple years of experience, just blow right by that and apply for the job. I mentioned previously, as you're evaluating, you're not saying no to yourself, and so you keep applying for these positions. You disregard the caveats that are in the job description. You apply, you apply, you apply, you apply. You keep going up the market size list, DMA size list. You are going to get to a point where common sense takes over. The realistic application or the realistic availability of positions for people in y'all's position, I would say, I could reasonably say right now, there's no one on this call, regardless of how awesome you are, that's going to get a job coming straight out of college, reporting on the sideline for ESPN. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get a sideline gig reporting for ESPN straight out of school this May. It will not happen. There are probably 10,000 people in front of you with 5 to 10 years of experience who are awesome, who are contending for the 2 jobs ESPN is going to fill this fall. And I just, not to discourage you, your dream job could be out there in front of you. It's unlikely you would beat out those people with tons of experience and a dynamite reel for that gig. So my point really is, at some point you stretch over your not telling yourself no, and you start butting up against common sense, which says, I'm not going to get the main anchor job in New York City. So use your best judgment. But I would say when you start feeling uncomfortable, go ahead and go another job or 2 higher, and make yourself apply, stretch a little bit beyond your comfort zone. If you don't get a call back for the job, it's okay, but you haven't purposely and knowingly cut yourself out of an opportunity which you may actually be able to land just because you don't feel confident enough yet. Go a little bit beyond your comfort zone and apply for those jobs, but don't tell yourself no. Make the hiring manager tell you no. Does everybody understand this charge to apply for that number of jobs and how to physically manage that? It's doable. It sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but if you organize your approach, you keep track of it, and you utilize the technology that's currently in place on the big job sites and the corporate media career sites, and you just keep track of it, it is a manageable process, and you can actually knock it out. You could, once you get all your stuff set up, you could conceivably, probably by the end of next week, if you got your resume proofed and all that, you could knock out 100 applications by the end of next week. It'd be easy to do, because once your profile is set up in a career site for a corporation, it's easy to just hit, click, apply, submit, click, apply, submit, click, apply, submit. Any questions about that? Is anybody scared of tackling 100 submissions? Yeah, Grace, a little bit nervous about that. That's okay. That's a big number. I know it's a big number. I know it's a big ask, but again, I'm super motivated to stress this for you guys, because I can't tell you how sad it has made me. And I used the example to you guys on last week and previously, to have somebody that to meet someone on a college campus who's about to graduate, whom I look at their reel, I talk to their professors, and I think, man, this person is really talented. I'm glad they're going into our business. And I talk to them a year after they graduate, and they still don't have a job. And they don't have a job because they've only applied for 5 jobs or 10 jobs, in an 18-month period. You cannot do that. It is absolutely a numbers game, and the numbers are working against you a little bit more because of COVID. And now with Sinclair laying off a bunch of people, one major media company probably not hot to hire in the next 6 months. So you got to get many lines in the water. You can't apply for a job and wait to get it, and when they tell you no, then apply then to the next one. It's not a linear process. It's a shotgun process. It's focused. You're not just shooting everywhere, but you're shooting for 100 positions that you've told yourself, if I'm successful and this thing checks out and they offer me the gig, I'm going. Don't stop the process once you hit submit for a job. Your job application process is just beginning, and at this point, this is the point in the process where you can rocket to the top of the list, because 80% of the people who are applying for the job that you just applied for are not going to do anything else from this point on. They've hit submit, and they're going to sit there and wait for the phone to ring, and the phone is not going to ring. And they're going to question, why isn't anyone calling me? Why isn't anyone reaching out to me? Instead, you need to be the one to drive the boat. Take charge. So, how do you manage the follow-up process? In your mind, you have your top 5 jobs, let's just say, right? And so you click submit, and you've applied for those 5 jobs. And in your mind, you say, okay, I've done all my research. I know who the news director is. I know what her phone number is. I know when she's commonly around the newsroom and available, because I've called in and talked to a producer, and they say best time to catch her is between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. local time, after the morning meeting and before the noon news. So you say, I'm going to make 5 phone calls between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. local time to my top 5 job prospects. And so you've got your battle plan, your call sheet ready for that Tuesday morning, right? And so that morning at around 8 p.m. local time, 9 p.m. local time, you're going to send an email to the person that you intend to call in that first call. And that email is going to include, again, your 3 to 5 sentences, which state who you are, the position you're interested in, where you currently are in school, and you're available for employment in May, and something about the TV station or the location that you're interested in. You're seeing the work they're doing, and one mention of why you might be a good match for the position. Again, this is I get cover letters from people, and they're 2 pages of single-spaced type long. That's way too much information. It needs to be double-spaced, 3 to 5 sentences. Hi, Miss So-and-so. I'm Sally Johnson, graduating from Syracuse University this May. Checked out the awesome work you guys are doing. I've applied rather for the blah, blah, blah position at your station. I saw the cool work you're doing about military affairs, and I love that because I have this skill and think I'd be a good match for this position at your station. I'll be following up with you. Thanks so much for your time. Please find my resume attached. Boom. The email is your cover letter. You don't have to write a separate cover letter and attach it to the email or attach it to your application. You don't have to do that. Have the perfectly formatted resume we talked about. The email that you send to each individual hiring manager is your cover letter, okay? And it's short and sweet and to the point. So you sent that email. It is sitting in the inbox of the hiring manager that you intend to call that morning. So it arrives like an hour before you're going to call. So it's right up near the top of the queue. It's easy for them to find. Does that make sense? Thumbs up if this makes sense. So imagine them sitting at their desk and you're calling in at 10 a.m. local time, and you can refer to that email in their inbox in the queue, right? So you have your binder out. It's open to that job. You make the call. You get them on the phone. You have your cold call, and then you record your notes about that call in the binder, and then you repeat this for each job for which you've applied over and over and over again. So if you've applied for 100 jobs, then over the course of a 2 to 3 week period, you can burn through cold calls on all those jobs during the month of March, what's left on the month of March. Does everybody understand that follow-up process? You've got to follow up by email. You got to follow up by phone. And the hotter the job gets and the more interested they get, the more touches you're going to have, the more emails you're going to have, and the more time you're going to spend on the most promising prospects. But if you do that, you will set yourself apart again from 80% of the people applying for that job, because most people hit submit and they never follow up. So you go to the front of the line by following up. Let's specifically talk about the cold call. You've got a hiring manager on the phone, and you want to keep them on the phone for a short period of time to get in the important first touch with them, where they can see a little bit of your personality. They can connect with you as a real human being, just not a number. Remember, this process of sending the emails and making the phone calls is a way for you to get around the robots on the corporate hiring sites. You don't want the robots to deprioritize your resume because it doesn't match some crazy, ridiculous parameter of 2 to 3 years of experience for an entry-level position. So that robot drops your resume down to the bottom of the list of candidates and doesn't rank it as high. Instead, you just want to go around the robot. Just go right to the hiring manager. You've emailed them. You get them on the phone. I'll go through the specific verbiage for the cold call pitch for you. But really what you're doing is you're disarming the hiring manager and you're getting in your elevator pitch. So what's an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch is a short 30-second to 1 minute pitch about how awesome you are and why you're a good match. And the reason it's called an elevator pitch is because theoretically you step onto an elevator in New York City and you'd love to work for a firm in that building. And it just so happens that the hiring manager is in the elevator with you and they say hello and you say hello, and they strike up a 30-second conversation while they're going from the first floor to the 20th floor. You got 30 seconds in the elevator to get your pitch in about why you're interested in their firm, why you're awesome, and which that might invite them to say, yeah, hey, here's my card, send me your resume. And it could open the door to that firm. So you want to, this cold call script will disarm the hiring manager and allow you to get your elevator pitch in. So I'm just going to do the script one time, and then we're going to walk through it, break it down, and answer questions. So ring, 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 ring. Hello. Hi, it's Julie Simpson here. Can I please speak to John Johnson, News Director? This is Mr. Johnson. How can I help you, Julie? Okay, here we go. Mr. Johnson, my name is Julie Smith. I'm a senior at Syracuse University, graduating in May. I have applied for your digital MMJ position on the corporate website, and I have also forwarded to you my resume. It's in your inbox right now. It got there this morning. Key phrase, this is the disarm portion of the script. I want to be respectful of your time, so this call will take less than 90 seconds. Is that okay? I want to be respectful of your time, so this call will take less than 90 seconds. Is that okay? What you do there is you tell them they do not have to invest a dangerous amount of time in a conversation right now with you. They can probably afford 90 seconds. You've given them permission to relax, right? Because as soon as you started talking and they realize that you're one of the 200 people who are about to graduate from school and you're calling them, they are starting to think about, how am I going to get this person off the phone? Their days are very busy and complicated. But if you tell them, relax, I'm only going to take 90 seconds of your time, their guard's going to come down. And they'll say, sure. 90% of them will say, sure. The window is open for you. So you just pause briefly for them to say, sure, go ahead. And you plow ahead. You thank them for allowing you to proceed. So I appreciate that. And you proceed, okay? Let's break it down to this point. You say who you are. You say the position for which you've applied. It's important that you say that you've applied for it on the corporate career website, because many hiring managers are not allowed, and in some instances, to engage in conversations like this with you of any substance about a position until you've officially applied for the position. And the only way to officially apply for the position is to do it through the corporate website, not sending them a resume, not sending them an email. Official application is recognized when you hit submit on the corporate website, okay? So you've relaxed them because you've met a threshold that HR puts on them. You've told them who you are. You told them the position you're interested in. You said they can find more information about you. While you're talking, they might go to their inbox and pop your resume open, so they have some sort of frame of reference while you're chatting with them, okay? And then you disarm them. I'm only going to take 90 seconds of your time. And don't say a minute and a half, say 90 seconds, because that sounds shorter, okay? So to this point, you're probably 15 seconds in. You got a lot of time left. So you plow ahead. The reason I applied for this position is because I noticed at your station, we're down to one thing about the station and or the position. That's where we are on the slide. So you've disarmed them, you thanked them, and you've begun to proceed to your elevator pitch. I noticed your station does some really cool work about X, Y, and Z. You guys are awesome. You're fantastic. And that also shows you did your research about this specific station and position, and mention then one or two of your skills that match the kind of work they're doing, and one of those need to match the job description of the position for which you've applied. You know, not a lot of job listings that I've come across for this kind of position say that I need to be an expert in still photography. Well, you know, Grace might say this, you know, as a photojournalism major and someone who's currently running their own business and making real money off of wedding photos, journalism, content, candids, portraits. You know, I know how to shoot photos and I have the gear to do it. I'm good at it. So you've just, boom, perfectly matched one of your super strong strengths with a particular thing that the job description says that that position is looking for. And in looking through the photo galleries on your website, you guys have some strong photographers. I like the work. The photo that I saw about day before yesterday of the fireman rescuing the person, what a dramatic photo. That was incredible. So you've related your own skills to the work they do, the good work they're putting out, and to at least one mention of a specific match in the job description. So you've stated who you are, what you've applied for, you've recognized the work they do, you've disarmed them and gotten permission to proceed. You've talked about the specific reason you're interested in the station and the position, and you've indicated specific skills you have that match the station and the position. You're still probably only a minute and 10 seconds into the pitch. You got 20 seconds left at this point. It's super efficient if you rehearse the script and you follow the script, and they will be appreciative of that and respectful of that, So you say, so that's why this position is super interesting for me. I really appreciate you chatting with me briefly about it. Then say, I'd be happy to set up a call to talk more in depth with you later about the opportunity and why I think I'm a good match for it. Or if you have a couple of questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. And then just shut up. So you're probably at your 90 seconds at this point, right? You got in who you are, what you applied for. You've demonstrated the fact that you show really genuine, detailed interest in the station. You've disarmed them. You've matched your skills to the position in the station, and then you've opened the door for them to continue in what amounts to your first interview with them. So if they have time, and I do this, if I have time, I'll say, I'll look at my calendar and I'll say, hold a second. Okay, I've got a meeting at X time. I have 8 minutes. You can have 6 of those minutes. Let's get a couple of questions in. And I'll have their resume open and I'll ask them a couple of questions. And then I'll let them ask one question. And then I'll say, appreciate it. I really appreciate the fact that you followed up on the application and I got to know a little bit more about you. And then you proceed to the next step, which is something coming up here. But you say, I'd be happy to set up a time to chat with you in depth about the position and why I'm a good match for it. Or if you have a couple of questions, I'll be happy to answer them right now. And then just shut up and wait. Let them fill the silence. They may say, don't have time for that right now. I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. Then you can go on to the rest of it. But remember, pause and let them say something, because you're at your 90-second mark and they need to give you permission to continue at this point so that you keep your word and you keep it under 90 seconds. Does that make sense? So let's just say that they do what I normally do. Ask a couple of questions. You also need to have your questions ready. Have 3 questions ready that you can ask them about the station, the position, the market, the company, things that you want to know about that position and station and company and maybe themselves. And then you need to establish next steps. Where do we go from here, right? You need to get some specific answers before you hang up. These questions right here are the questions, if you only have time for these questions, these are the ones you need to get in, right? I would prefer that the first question you ask, if they invite you to ask questions, is a question about how they're doing what they're doing, or something salient about the operation. It's less about you getting the job. Like, I noticed you guys are doing X, Y, and Z. How does that activity relate to the particular position for which you're hiring here? Is that person involved in coverage of that type? Ask something about the cool work they're doing so they can brag a little bit, right? And also answer your question about like what kind of work you'd be doing. But what you need to get before you hang up, and even if they're rushing you along, then say, totally understand that, want to be respectful of your time. Before we hang up, let me ask you something real quick. Get these questions in. You want to establish, is this a real opportunity or not, right? And by doing, how you do that is to say, you ask them, what is the timetable for filling this position? When do you hope to have your successful candidate brought on board for this position? That'll tell you, are they in a hurry to fill it? Are they slow rolling it because of budgetary reasons? Do they not have time to get around to it because they're involved in a big project and they won't really have time to really start formal interviews for 2 weeks? Have some sort of idea about, is it a real job? Are they going to fill it? And when are they going to fill it? And then you want to establish, what's our next step? And I recommend you say that exactly like that. That's why it's in quotes. Once you get an understanding, you say, yeah, it's a real job. And they say, I want to fill it in the next 30 days. You say, that's fantastic. What's our next step? You know, you need to get that in there. And then once they tell you what the next step is, you know, okay, well, you know, I do want to have a more at length conversation with you. I probably want to get you to talk to our EP, our assistant news director, and then and then that'll open the door for you to wrap it up for follow up, right? So you move into the setting expectations. You want to set expectations like, we're now engaged in a conversation, and you might hire me. We've established that you like me to this point, and you're taking it to the next step. So you hear what they say, you say, okay, what's our next step? And they tell you what the next step is. And you say, okay, I will. And then you just basically repeat back what they just said to you. If they said, you know, I want you to interview with our assistant news director, you say, oh, that's excellent. I can't wait to talk to John about the opportunity. I'll reach out directly to him or her, you know, to have that conversation. So you've established next step, right? And the two things you need to do before you hang up then are, you need to ask for the order. That's a sales term, but you need to have them hear you say, Susie, I really like what I hear. I want this job. I think I'm a great match for what you need, and given the opportunity, I promise you I won't let you down. You ask for the job before you hang up. You have to tell them, I want the job. And the way that I just let that roll off my tongue, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't pleading like, please hire me. You know, it wasn't thirsty. It was like, hey, we're pros here. I think I'm a good match. I'm super excited about what you've told me during this brief conversation. I'm even more interested now than before I called you. And I think I can fit your needs. Thanks. We'll talk soon. End of. It's probably now a 2-minute conversation, maybe a 2.5-minute conversation if they haven't asked you any questions. Super efficient. You've learned a ton about this position. Even in that short of a time, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you will have been able to read a little bit about that hiring manager, how they handle people. Did your gut give you a good feeling about them? Does it seem like they'd be a cool person to work for? And you've learned more about how you're going to successfully move your candidacy forward for that particular position. That's a ton of detail. There's exact words in there I recommend you use. I modeled it for you. Does anybody have anything they need unpacked? Speak up. Is anybody surprised by anything? Help me to understand if I'm doing this correctly for you and other people and other students I speak to. Somebody, if you wouldn't mind volunteering, from what we've covered about the application process, the email, and the follow-up cold call, what is the most surprising thing to you about this part of the job search process? Does anybody want to help me and give me a gift here by helping me to understand what light bulb went off for you about this? And then that will help me as I go forward for you guys and also other students that I speak to make sure that go ahead, Ryan.
I guess what we've been kind of instructed to do at Syracuse, at least, is to try and really look into the alumni network and see if there's a Syracuse alumni at one of the stations.
Awesome.
And then reach out to them before we go to the news director. Is that something that you think we should still do?
Yeah, absolutely. That you have product, you have someone in the Orange Mafia inside the building that can work on your behalf and give you the real skinny. That's a fantastic, fantastic suggestion. Absolutely work that network. Samantha, what about you? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm curious. Anything stick out that was surprising to you? You're talking, but you're muted, so we can't hear you.
She said that she was going to use the chat.
Oh, okay.
There
we go. Gotcha. Yeah. What about you, Rolanda? Anything surprising for you?
Well, everything is surprising, actually.
Are you overloaded?
Yes, I literally have like 3 or 4 pages of like information because but everything is really good, especially like the phone call and like the because I never was taught like to actually call them before like the actual interview part. We was just taught, go in the interview, this is what we do, this is your resume. Like I know about how to build up a resume, but I never knew about the whole like doing the phone call part before actually getting in there. So that was
Right.
new information for me.
Yeah. So do you understand why if you do that, at least just make one touch like that by phone just for 90 seconds, that you would set yourself apart from the crowd because you've done some follow-up and so many of the other applicants are just sitting there waiting to be contacted?
Right. Yes, because I think that goes a long way that you're interested in the position and, doing some info for yourself. Because like if you like look up the information that you are going into, that would, be like, hey, they actually know what they want to do and know the information within the company. So it goes a long way.
Yeah. And in the chat, Samantha makes the point that, using the phrase, this phone call will only take 90 seconds. That is such a powerful thing, guys, because unless it's the general manager of the television station or corporate news content managers calling or somebody on their staff at a spot news scene, then perhaps part of the danger there is their day are so busy. But if you just have them relax by saying, it's only going to take 90 seconds, then you disarm them and they can relax and they can just take a breath and say, all right, I'll let this person go for 90 seconds. Kimberly says, it's great to know that even though the website says no phone calls, please, you can make a phone call. And a point about that, Kimberly and everybody, what I would say is if the application says no phone calls, and you go ahead and make a phone call, and let's say that news director answers the phone and says, are you dumb? Can you not read the job listing? It says no phone calls. You probably don't want to work for them because they're a jerk. I mean, you're qualifying them as well as them qualifying you, right? So, how they handle that, and part of the reality of the job you will be doing as a journalist is you're going to get told to no a lot. And you're going to just ignore the no's and keep on trying to get the information. So why would I, as a hiring manager, not want to see that same sort of determination and tenacity in someone who's trying to get the job? That just demonstrates those character traits for me, right? Grace, you had something you wanted to mention.
Yes. So first of all, I, like Rose said too, I have like 5 or 6 pages of notes and it makes me feel a lot better, especially with a resume and then cold call stuff. But I really wanted to emphasize, I love how you said that the email is the cover letter. I feel like in all of these formalities, you always hear about the cover letter being this huge, like, I'm going to impress you with this, and you have to have a certain amount of pages and really wow them. But I love that it really brings the focus more to the email being so much more personable and so much more like attainable. And it's all in one section instead of this huge Word document trying to like woo somebody. I think all of us agree that there's so much pressure on like wowing people.
Yeah.
And I love you that you emphasized, do not be the person to tell yourself no, like let your hiring manager do that, because I feel like there's so many opportunities out there that we're already telling ourselves like that's unattainable because of you're lacking this experience. I really admire like the experience thing of like the 2 years, like just go out there and do it. Like it doesn't matter. Like they're going to need you anyway. So I really like that. And I just feel so much more like prepared. The script thing is so good and it works. And I'm seeing things and I'm like, if I was a hiring manager and somebody told me that, like the 90 seconds also relaxes me, like as somebody that's applying, because I know I'm not going to have to like woo people for 4 minutes straight and randomly.
Right.
So that's really, really good. So thank you for that. Seriously.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback, guys. Samantha asked a question, is it okay to connect with them on LinkedIn? Yes. Before you actually apply to a station and you're doing your research, I would go ahead and request connection on LinkedIn to those people, and and just mention in the little message that you can send. Always send a message when you're connecting with somebody on LinkedIn. It should be brief. It should be like, hey, I noticed you've been the news director at, so-and-so station for 5 years. I spent a lot of time there with my family vacationing. I'm graduating in May and will be looking for positions in the business, and would love to just connect with you and have you in my network. Don't mention anything about the fact that 2 weeks from now you might be applying for a job with them that you've seen, but just go ahead and now, before you apply to them, connect with them. If you haven't yet connected with them, then after you have put in the application and have the cold call, immediately go to LinkedIn, request a connection and say, great chatting with you, super excited about your station, would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Thanks much. Boom, and submit that LinkedIn application or connection request. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go to our next section here. Okay, so what can you do while you're still in school? Continue to produce portfolio work, cranking out a video story a week. I think we have mostly seniors here, so this is something I usually remind underclassmen about, even if you're not in a class. Continue to crank out work. And do work. Try to do remote or freelance work while you're still in school. And again, standardize your social media platforms, standardize your resume, your LinkedIn, and then start your search early. So I'm assuming that most of you are graduating in May and you're in the job hunt now. And so you're going to be able to use on your resume and your resume reel the work that you've done to this point and the work that you do during your remainder of time in school. We're getting on in time here, so I want to get in the reading recommendation as well, which is Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson is a person who has a multi-million company called Funnel Secrets and ClickFunnels, excuse me. ClickFunnels is his company, and it is a sales funnel software program. But Russell has 3 books: .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, and Funnel Secrets, I believe. Expert Secrets is his second book. The reason I put this book in front of you is what he does in this book is he explains online avatars and personas and how you can align your skill set with this online persona that you have. And then you can leverage that to create interest in yourself and your work. And if you're selling a product, in your product, it's incredibly instructive and speaks to that process y'all have begun about standardizing your brand across all your social platforms. But it also, if you read this book, and it's a super fast read too, it's a paperback, it's not that thick, and there's a lot of graphs and drawings and pictures in it, and it's big font, so it's a fast read. But I have this book and refer to it often when I'm thinking about launching a new show with somebody who's an anchor here or reformatting a program, and I think about how do we position this and how do we sell the big idea of the show and the persona of the host And so this is an incredibly instructive book for that respect, but also learning about Russell's company and what Russell's into and what he does as a digital marketer will also open your eyes to the fact that being a reporter or a photographer or a producer for a television station is not the only way to make money and a career with the skills you have. Many of the skills you have apply to many other industries. And later in the program, we'll have some experts speak to you about other kinds of jobs you can get. But as you're preparing to apply and market yourself as a skilled professional, many of the tenets in this book will help you understand and frame that in a way on all those platforms you're using to promote yourself. So it's a solid book. All his books are quick reads, great stuff, and will open your eyes on ways to make a career and money in areas outside of traditional journalism. And that's our meeting today. We're butting up against 11:45 and the noon program's coming up, but I know that was a lot of information, guys. And so it's a lot to digest, but I will get the replay up so you can watch it. And I'll email this slide deck to you guys in the follow-up email so you can refer to it if you weren't able to take as many notes. But it is a detailed process. It is a specific process. It is a methodical process. It asks a lot of you. But again, everything I say in this presentation and every piece of advice that I give you is to maximize your exposure to hiring managers, maximize the efficiency of the process you use to apply for as many positions as you can apply for, and to supercharge the impact of every step of that process so that you are getting in the hunt, standing out among the candidate pool, and moving to the front of the line for every position for which you apply. So that's why it's so detailed. And again, I've honed it over years and years and years and feedback from applicants and from dealing with applicants and recognizing the things that I would see an applicant do and say, that's fantastic. And I would capture it and put it in this. So you're learning from not only me and other professionals like me, but you're learning from other people like yourself who have just maybe unknowingly done something really awesome. And I've grabbed it and saved it in this presentation so that you can then benefit from best of class performance for young people like yourselves graduating from college and right now at this point in their senior year, embarking on a serious push to land multiple offers and secure a position before you graduate. Does that make sense, guys? Anybody who got at least one valuable takeaway from this presentation, give me a thumbs up so I can see that I did my job today. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Guys, I remind you again, I said it last week, I try to say it at least once a week. You absolutely can do this. You've gone to school, you've studied, you've prepared, you've repped the work. There is a position out there right now waiting on you for which you can be happy as your first position in the industry. Increase your chances of landing that really, really solid gig in a place where you can be happy by approaching it with zest and excitement, enthusiasm, and with discipline so you can keep track of it, you don't make mistakes along the way, and you maximize the impact of every touch you have with a hiring manager so that, again, you have multiple offers and you have a position waiting on you as soon as you turn that tassel and walk off the stage. Y'all be blessed. I'll see you Thursday, okay?